Throughout the years, anime has become one of the most popular mediums when it comes to storytelling. The reason for that is that big shows like Naruto, One Piece, My Hero Academia, Death Note, and many others got so popular within the community that the bubble burst and started bringing in people from outside the community. But the problem is that when shows get this big, they don't leave much room for the not-so-popular series, and many great stories just get buried under the dust. So it's about time we vacuum a bit. Hello and welcome back to Anime Undisclosed, and today we'll be talking about the top 10 most underrated anime of all time. Before we continue, if you don't want to miss our regular anime-related videos, make sure to subscribe to our channel to be notified every time we release a new video you'd be interested in. With that being said, let's put our critic hats on and let's get on with the video. Number 10. Hell Girl. This anime will appear on pretty much every list that tackles underrated anime, hence its recent notice in the last couple of years. But somehow there's still no one talking about it as much as the show itself deserves. The fact that it's within the horror genre is probably a part of its low popularity, but it's still one of the most engaging anime in the genre. That story follows a little girl called Ai Enma, or Hell Girl, who can be summoned whenever someone is so hated that they need to be taken to hell. We follow a series of groups that summon her, but soon learn that in order to send a soul to hell first, you must pay a price. This leads to some interesting looks into what different people are like. It makes you wonder whether the demon is Hell Girl, or actually the human summoning her. Definitely worth a check. Number 9. Gangsta.
久々のでけえ仕事だ。しっかり暴れてこいよ、便利屋。了解。
Between black and white, there is gray. Gangsta is the anime that is even more unexplainably popular, as its premise alone is enough to get people invested. The story follows two handymen who act as the gray in the first sentence. They are two extremely talented hitmen who neither work as thugs nor as cops. In a city full of bandits, thieves, love workers, and cops, the two handymen Warwick, Archangelo, and Nicholas Brown take on the jobs that neither the mob nor the police can handle. If you're looking for some insane characters and a bunch of crazy action, look no further. The only drawback of the show, and possibly the reason it's so underrated, is that it only has 12 episodes. Although it does end in a satisfying way, you just can't help but desire a little bit more from it. Still, it's an amazing show that needs to be seen. Number 8. Hamtora. Time we get into the supernatural mystery stories of Hamtora. When a 17-year-old decides to open up his own supernatural detective agency, you can imagine that he'll be thrown into the craziest situations. Not to mention the fact that the entire anime has its own power system, with the minimums, which makes the anime have more of a realistic solution to all the craziness. The biggest selling point of this anime is definitely the plot, and how it captures your attention with the different reveals of the mysteries going on. But the characters are also pretty well developed and done. Also, every anime that names its characters with adjectives is bound to be good. For example, Akame ga Kill has the Prime Minister Honest. And here we have the Detective Nice. Just some food for thought. Number 7. Monster.
摘出完了しました。
安心するのはまだ早いですよ。破損した血管壁の補強が残っています。
ああ、プロにしよう。
はい。
Keeping up with the flow, we have a thriller now. From horror to mystery to thriller. Are you starting to notice a pattern? Monster is an anime about an incredibly good surgeon called Kenzo Tenma, who lives in Germany to support his family. He works as a surgeon and decides that he'll always save anyone who comes in for surgery, depending on the severity of the situation. Due to this, his life is soon turned upside down when Johann, a man who was shot in the head, arrives for surgery. He immediately decides that he's closest to losing his life, so he'll be the one to be treated. Soon after, the mayor of the town also arrives and is in critical condition. But Kenzo decides that the man with the gunshot wound arrived first, so he'll save him first. Things play out in a way where Johan is saved, but the mayor takes his last breath. Due to this, Kenzo loses his social standing, but that becomes the least of his problems when Johan turns out to be a serial killer. A bunch of people in the hospital are then put out of commission, and the police believe that it is former surgeon Kenzo Tenma, as he's the only one who would have a motive. Quite the unlucky guy Tenma is. Maybe we should have given him a higher spot on the list just to make him feel better. Number 6. Samurai Flamenco.
侍フラメンコ100億の敵とその100億倍の人々が君を待っている
Not to be confused with Samurai Champloo, Japan has quite the respect for its samurai. So usually, any anime that has the word samurai in it is incredibly well done. Just take a look at Afro Samurai, or Samurai Champloo. But Samurai Flamenco has nothing to do with actual swordplay in that time period at all. The story follows a young man, Masayoshi Hazama, who dreams of becoming a superhero, despite not having any superpowers nor the money to make a super badass suit like Batman. He then decides to use his creativity and become a hero that way, and the anime is really good at showing different creative ways of using everyday items as super weapons. From staplers to ballpoint pens, Hazama uses everything he can think of in order to be the best hero possible, and it's hilarious. But also kind of epic too. Definitely one of the funnier series that deserves some more attention. Now, we've come to the part of the list that fully embodies what underrated means. While the anime above were underrated in their own right, they were still known. And some people talked about them from time to time, but moving forward, these are anime that if you've even heard about, you must be a true anime fan, except for number 1. Number 1 is known, but it's just incredibly underrated. But moving on, we have number 5, Interviews with Monster Girls.
お前ずいぶん落ち着いてるけど珍しくないのかアジン
そりゃ珍しいとは思うけど驚きはしないかなだってさ私もアジンだしヴァンパイアだし
This is honestly one of the best pastime anime you can ever watch in your lifetime. No, it won't get you so emotionally invested that you'd want to be the best. And no, you won't cry your tears out in every backstory. And you definitely won't hate the villains so much that you want to join the anime and beat the lights out of them yourself. No. Instead, what this anime offers is some of the sweetest and most relaxing pastimes you can ever experience. In fact, there are no villains, just a couple of demi-humans going to school, a super cool biology teacher who helps them accept themselves and socialize better, and relatable characters that you can fall in love with in an instant. No big fights, just your everyday life but portrayed in the sweetest way possible. I've literally heard only 5 other people talking about this anime, and they say just that. There's nothing too crazy, but they're incredibly fond of the feeling they experienced while watching it. So do yourself a favor and go for it. Number 4. Desu Paredo.
あまりおすすめしませんが。
なんだ
Now, in complete contrast to the previous entry, this anime is all about the heavy philosophical questions. The anime goes like this. When a person loses their life, they usually go to either heaven or hell. But when 2 people simultaneously pass away, they're sent into a sort of purgatory with a bar, where special judges, called arbiters, examine them and decide where they should go. The people themselves asked to play games with difficult situations that will surely reveal whatever hidden sides they have to their character. We follow an assistant arbiter who questions if she has the right to decide where people would go, and the anime takes many different twists and turns with that concept. And yes, we wonder why it's underrated too. Number 3. Eden of the East.
おっさんお揃いっすねその携帯あおっさんももしかして記憶ないんですか
はあ何言ってる
いやなんでもないんですすいませんちょっと気になったもんでそれじゃ
What would you do if you had $100 million to save the world? Most people would say that they need to think about it. Well, the creator of Eden of the East surely had his time to think about it, as he wrote a whole series about a bunch of people who have that amount of money to do exactly that. Save the world. What's amazing about this series isn't just that, but it's the fact that all of these different people have different ideas of what that means to save the world with 100 million. Technically, it's a billion yen, but with American conversions, we're talking about $100 million. Now, this is money converted into American currency. $100 million is actually 1 billion yen in Japan. But I digress. With a premise like that, it's a wonder that this anime should even be on this list, but the reality is such. Like Gangsta, it's a bit struck by the fact that it only has 12 episodes. But in addition, there are also 2 movies released, so there's a bit more to watch when it comes to the story. All in all, this is also one of the anime that appear on every list ever for underrated series. And that's definitely for a reason. Number 2, D-Gray Man. At number 2, we have an anime that's somehow both incredibly successful, at least according to the internet, but it's also never mentioned anywhere. No one ever talks about it despite the manga having over 25 million copies sold. D-Gray Man follows Alan Walker, a young man who trained for 3 years under General Cross, and now has to find the secret exorcist organization, called the Black Order, so he can become an official exorcist. Exorcists are needed in this world as intense tortured souls called the Akuma are troubling people, and there's even an evil group of people who want to create more Akuma, which leads to many different twists, where Alan really can't know the difference between his allies and his enemies. The anime itself has a really dark aesthetic, but manages to be lighthearted enough so that it's bearable. And unlike other entries on this list, it's got a bunch of seasons. So what are you waiting for? Go watch it. Oh, wait, you're waiting for the top pick. Sure. That's what we're gonna do. But before we do that, if you like this video so far, make sure to give it a thumbs up so that it doesn't become as underrated as these anime. Done? Great. Now, let's reveal our top pick. Number 1, Shaman King, 2021. Now, this is probably the pick on the channel that will inspire the most controversy, but Shaman King really is incredibly underrated. I guess it's because many people remember watching it when they were little, and it ended back then for them. But what you may not know is that Shaman King 2001, while starting off based on the manga, continued and ended before the manga had even ended, so the studio had to think of some things on their own, which, to be quite honest, ruined the story quite a bit. However, the 2021 remake is a totally different story. Now there's enough source material to blast out the whole thing just as the writer intended it to, and it's legendary. You still get the epic shaman ghost duos with Yo and Amidamaru, and Ren with Basin, but you also get the story as it was intended to be told. Crazy shaman fights involving the elements, samurai, Chinese warriors, lizards, and whatever else you can think of combined with the relaxed attitude of Yo Asakura, and his completely unlikely ambition to be the Shaman King. Makes for an anime unlike any other. The only thing really missing is that badass song from back in 2001. And there you have it, fellow anime disclosers. The top 10 most underrated anime of all time. Because this is one of the most subjective topics out there, we'd love to hear you out down in the comments below on what you think is the most underrated anime. There were a bunch we couldn't mention due to this being just a top 10 list, so whatever you say would be a bonus for other viewers to check it out. Again, don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you still haven't, and to like this video if you still haven't also. With that said, we'll be taking our leave, so as always, have an underrated day, and we'll see you next time.